I think investors do care about the holistic value of the company.
Are you contributing to coming up with some of these price predictions that we've heard from Executive Chairman Michael Saylor? I mean, in BTC Prague, the 21, 21, 21, the AAR, 21 million price target. Like, who's coming up with this?
I would say Michael Saylor's thoughts are his own, and it's all his vision. But our Bitcoin team does help him with some of the detailed financial modeling behind it and help put together some of these presentations and the content. But all the vision and the content and the ideas come from Michael himself.
Okay, well, let's start with the IR then, because I keep hearing people say we're seeing the digital transformation of investor relations, and there's been just some really strong community engagement. I think that that's led to even more retail adoption of Bitcoin. Can you talk about how important it is and why companies are prioritizing investor relations more?
I think investor relations is such an important function for the companies to be able to talk to their investors and to relay information and tell the story about the company to the end user. And the customer of your stock is basically your investors.
Yeah.
And a lot of these companies are in the traditional method of doing like quarterly talking to the investors, which has worked for the companies because there's not much happening in between the quarters to be able to relay more frequently. But with respect to us, we are doing things so frequently, like we are doing things like almost every 2 weeks, every week.
Yeah.
So there's so much to update the investors about that we have to kind of keep up with that and to innovate here. We launched our website strategy.com with so many different metrics to give more real-time information to the investors so that they can see what we see. And then also, how can we communicate? There was an innovation at every step. There was always a struggle with the bankers and lawyers on how you do things differently. And now they understand, like, we always want to do things like differently, and people have gotten around it. But things like publishing a presentation on X, publishing a video on YouTube in real time, and how do you do that? Getting some investor feedback surveys and giving access to new investors to be able to reach out to the company and meet new social mediums, or like how do you reach out to people through different ways and how do you communicate to them, not just the traditional way. So that was all the innovation that we embraced, and that is being very well received by the community.
Do investors care about core businesses anymore, or do they only care about the Bitcoin?
I think investors do care about the holistic value of the company. So they do look at the Bitcoin business as the primary business. The way I would frame that is they look at it in the proportion of the valuation mix for the different companies. So as the Bitcoin proportion of a company's business keeps on going up, investors' focus shifts more towards the Bitcoin side of things. And that's pretty natural. But they do look at like how the rest of the operating business is also doing. And they just want to make sure it's working fine and there are optimizations happening there, or what are the growth metrics or something. So they do look at that because that gives them the comfort and sort of the downside protection in a way when evaluating these companies with respect to Bitcoin. But the Bitcoin content has certainly like gone up a lot. So the focus is a lot on the Bitcoin side now.
Well, now you've accumulated so much Bitcoin. What is it like to manage a Bitcoin treasury, especially one that is literally making moves, it seems, on a weekly basis? You're kind of buying Bitcoin all the time, right?
Yeah, the way to think about it, like we are buying the Bitcoin around the clock. People ask this question to me and us and our Bitcoin team that, oh, did Strategy buy Bitcoin? Or there's speculation I see on X when like, oh, they must have bought the Bitcoin, that's why it's spiking. But what I say is we are actually buying Bitcoin around the clock. Almost every day, every hour, every second, we are in the market. And the way we buy Bitcoin is we do not move the price of the Bitcoin. So we kind of manage our buys in a way that we are kind of some proportion of the market liquidity. So we do not kind of eat up into the price of the Bitcoin. So if it's appreciating very fast, that very likely may not be us, because we don't like to kind of move the price of the Bitcoin much. And then say if it is going down, then we can take the opportunity to move faster probably and acquire faster. So we change the pacings of how we acquire, but we are in the market most of the time, depending on how much we are buying with.
How are you not moving the market when you're sometimes making these massive purchases?
That's the thing. I mean, it moves over time. And the way I would also say is it kind of provides a higher and higher floor over time. As there's more institutional buying happening. These institutions are holding for a long term, and we are holding for the long term. So the floor price of Bitcoin keeps going up over time. However, like in the near term, there are other market factors that determine the price fluctuations. And that's like the trader community that kind of impacts the near term price movement, and not like the long-term kind of buyers. Because the trading volume, if you see, Bitcoin's trading volume is over $50 billion in any 24 hours. And that's like a huge volume. So if you are buying $1 billion over a couple of days, it's not that much actually to move the market.
Strategy recently shared that it had a $14 billion unrealized appreciation in the Bitcoin. That's thanks to fair value accounting. So as treasurer, how important has that rule change been with FASB?
It is absolutely incredible. I mean, earlier the accounting was one directional. It was kind of on the negative direction. Now with this fair value accounting, it gives an opportunity to all companies to be able to put Bitcoin on their treasury and be able to recognize the impact in real time. Strategy in last quarter recognized the $14 billion fair value appreciation on the Bitcoin holdings. And we added 21 billion, like coincidentally, 21 billion of digital assets last quarter, Bitcoin value to our treasury, from like 43 billion to 64 billion.
Yeah.
So that is incredible. That this gain puts us in one of the top 10 companies in the US in the last quarter by operating income. And that is like huge if you think about it. We are more than 100 billion market cap company. That would rank us somewhere in the top 80, 90, 100 companies in the America. But operating income wise, that puts us in the top 10. So that is incredible feat for a company like us. We're shareholders and not try to really compete with each other. It's like Team Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's good advice. Some of the things you're creating are so novel. How do you help people wrap their head around the fact that the capital markets are really being revolutionized with Bitcoin-backed credit?
That is pretty novel for the fixed income market. When we were marketing this preferred equities, which are paying like kind of high yield like dividends, and between our preferreds, they are across the different spectrum of the yield curve. But it was very fascinating to see when we talked to the investors, there were some investment grade investors also showing up to some of these calls and asking us the story, and they're subscribing to this. So it's very interesting. An investment grade investor wouldn't really look at a high yield type of product, but when they listen to our messaging in the story of how it is backed by multiple X collateral, they start to wrap their head around this, like what is going on. There is a fact here that if you look at the treasuries of some of the biggest AAA grade companies in the US market, they don't have more than 2x or 3x collateral in terms of cash or liquid securities on their balance sheet. For us, if you look at our Strife product, it's like like 6x, 7x, and our entire cap structure is like 5x over collateralized. So that's like a huge amount of over collateralization if you think about it.
Yeah.
And from a risk management perspective, Bitcoin can trade down like 80% and the creditors are still fine. So when you think about the risk management, you think from the perspective of the creditor, that they will be fine. And when the investors start to get comfort around that, it's like a whole novel product for them that we don't need to be reliant on our software cash flows to be able to pay the dividends.
Right.
And we can issue equity. So which is a novel concept that people also had to wrap their head around. But once they understand it, they realize like this Bitcoin-backed credit is such a huge innovation in the industry, and which can be completely disruptive.